り花両と思いは一つ同じ夜空
You may have heard for 6 years that I was about to plunge the nation into war, that you and your little brothers would be sent to the bloody fields of battle in Europe, that I was driving the nation into bankruptcy, and that I breakfasted every morning on a dish of grilled millionaire. Actually, I am an exceedingly mild-mannered person, a practitioner of peace, both domestic and foreign, a believer in the capitalistic system, and for my breakfast, a devotee of scrambled eggs.
Inside the classroom, the children take their places and prepare for work. Meanwhile, in cupboards near the door, each pair of shoes is also in its proper place. And now a reading lesson.
しかし入れ替わりに大勢の人がどやどやと入ってきました。席はみんな塞がった上に立って。
ゆきこさん。
明日からはもっと早く来ようと思った。朝ごはんが済んでから少し勉強をした。休み中は毎朝涼しいうちに勉強するつもりだ。8月2日木曜晴れ。
What General Weygand has called the Battle of France is over. The Battle of Britain is about to begin. Upon this battle depends the survival of Christian civilization. Upon it depends our own British life and the long continuity of our institutions and our empire. The whole fury and might of the enemy must very soon be turned on us. Hitler knows that he will have to break us in this island or lose the war. If we can stand up to him, all Europe may be freed, and the life of the world may move forward into broad, sunlit uplands. But if we fail, then the whole world, including the United States, including all that we have known and cared for, will sink into the abyss of a new dark age, made more sinister and perhaps more protracted by the lights of perverted science Let us therefore brace ourselves to our duty, and so bear ourselves that if the British Empire and its commonwealths last for 1,000 years, men will still say, this was their finest hour.
Later in the morning, at the Yamada home, the maid buys tofu from a street vendor. Tofu, or bean curd, comes from soybeans and is tasty in soups. In the main living room of the Yamada home, Mother attends to one of the most important of Japanese household tasks, skillful flower arrangement, an art highly honored in Japan. Grandmother is occupied with needlework on a new kimono, while Bochan plays with his toys. Mother just finishes placing flowers before the family's ancestral shrine, when suddenly, in the distance, the whistle of the Tokyo Express. Once more, Father will be able to report that the train is on time, for the express is almost always exactly on schedule. During the brief pause in the station, the engineer oils his locomotive. And presently, Father is again at his desk, preparing a record of train movements. He writes the Japanese characters easily and quickly, but in Taro's and Yukiko's class in school, the children are just learning how to write. It is not easy when you are only beginning. Yukiko writes slowly and carefully. Taro, too, is still very cautious, but he handles the brush well as he completes the last character of the name for Japan. From top to bottom it reads, Dai Ni Pon, meaning great sun's origin, or as we say, Japan. Later, Taro wields a bat with even greater skill in the American game of baseball. Nearby, older boys practice fencing as a part of their physical training.
senators, and representatives, I have the distinguished honor of presenting the President of the United States.
Mr. Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan. The United States was at peace with that nation, and at the solicitation of Japan was still in conversation with its government and its emperor, looking toward the maintenance of peace in the Pacific. The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. In addition, American ships have been reported torpedoed on the high seas between San Francisco and Honolulu. As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense, but always will our whole nation remember the character of the onslaught against us. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory. I believe that I interpret the will of the Congress and of the people when I assert that we will not only defend ourselves to the uttermost, but will make it very certain that this form of treachery shall never again endanger us. Hostilities exist. There is no blinking at the fact that our people, our territory, and our interests are in grave danger. With confidence in our armed forces, with the unbounding determination of our people, we will gain the inevitable triumph, so help us God. I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
Today, Yukiko puts aside her school dress for a fine silk kimono. She and Brother Taro are going to a festival. This is an excursion in which the entire family joins. All look forward to seeing the cherry blossoms, and there will be many other attractions for young and old. Even as the Yamadas are leaving home for the day's outing, other families are already assembling at the scene of the festival. Cherry blossoms are everywhere, framing bridges, and here a castle of old Japan. Among the places visited by many of those who have gathered for the festival is a small shrine, one of thousands of such religious structures to be found in Japan. On their arrival, the Yamadas stop to worship. First, Taro pulls the bell cord, then offerings are tossed into a box by all members of the family. They do not enter the shrine interior, but remain at the entrance. Clapping their hands as a sign of their presence, they bow in reverent silence before leaving. Now to enjoy the cherry blossoms, so beloved by the people of Japan. As with so many Japanese, Father's hobby is photography. He is anxious to get pictures of the delicate blossoms, which last for only a few days each year. Another popular feature of the festival is a storyteller.
地上運転を終わり、機関士、夫間違い機関券黒を登場して、足空を切って試験飛行に登った太郎は、突如として起こった大旋風に巻き込まれ、あわやと見る間に切りもみ状態となって隣の吉蔵の屋根に。
So the day passes with enjoyable activities for all. But for Taro and Yukiko, and Mother too, the outing is not complete without seafoam candy.
Your commentator is Joe O'Brien. Here is the motion picture record released by the United States Navy of the havoc wrought by the Japs' sneak sky and sea raid on Pearl Harbor, America's mid-Pacific naval bastion. On December 7th, 1941, Japan, like its infamous Axis partners, struck first and declared war afterwards. Costly to our Navy was the loss of war vessels, airplanes, and equipment, but more costly to Japan was the effectiveness of its foul attack in immediately unifying America in its determination to fight and win the war thrust upon it, and to win the peace that will follow. The Japs copied their German masters in striking hard at airfields. Hickam Field, northwest of Honolulu, and the Fort Island Naval Plane Base were the first objectives of Japan's treachery. Scores of planes were bruised and battered by the Japs' aerial bombs. Many of these were demolished beyond repair. Direct hits were scored on hangars, and these were badly shattered. Equipment and airplane supplies were reduced to smoldering ruins. Here at the Naval Air Station is grim and positive evidence of Jap treachery. Here foul blows were struck, while Jap diplomats were talking peace in Washington. America lost 3 destroyers. Here are seen the United States destroyers Downs and Shaw as they rest on the bottom of Pearl Harbor with decks awash after Jap bombers make direct hits on their decks. First to feel the sting of Japanese steel are the USS Oklahoma and Utah, the latter a 33-year-old target ship. Accurate hits by the enemy bombers make short work of these 2 naval bulwarks. Now, with their keels practically out of water, they lie helpless wrecks and a sad reminder of cowardly strategy. To make possible a surprise attack within Pearl Harbor, the Japs built 2 manned submarines to enable them to fire sneak blows within waters that are narrow and tortuous. Several of these surprise weapons were blown from the water by direct hits of our naval gunners. Others were beached and captured. While sky and sea fire was still raging, salvage crews inspected our naval craft to estimate what may be saved. Before the din of bursting bombs had been silenced, preparations were underway to salvage these 2 warships. At low tide, the huge propeller of the Oklahoma, stilled by the enemy, was high above water. It is believed that the small 2-man Jap submarines carrying dual torpedo tubes were responsible for these 2 losses to our Pacific Fleet. Here is the actual bombing of the mighty USS Arizona by Jap planes. These pictures were made by a fearless cameraman who thought nothing of his personal safety to make possible this record for all posterity. A single lucky hit was responsible for the disaster that befell the Arizona when a Jap bomb falling directly through one of the battleship's funnels exploded in the engine room and set ablaze tons of fuel oil. Dense black smoke billowed to the sky as the massive control tower began to keel over. The Arizona's courageous crew stuck to its guns until the very end. Here was displayed heroism that will live forever in the glorious annals and traditions of the American Navy. The once mighty Arizona now rests on Pearl Harbor's muddy bottom, a pitiful relic of its former self, a grim monument to the treachery of Japan. The once mighty dreadnought's armor plate is twisted and torn, but the great battleship's control tower still stands, a defiant beacon that in days to come will cast its shadow upon Nippon's very shores. At Pearl Harbor, at Hickam Field, in the bomb-pocked streets of Honolulu, ever is written history. History with a tragic, treacherous pen. History that 130 million Americans will never forget. And in days to come, the Japs, too, will remember Pearl Harbor. Here is a tragic, unforgettable page in the annals of America. Here, the cunning deceit of the Japs will never be forgotten. Here, they hoped to score a knockout before the war began. The Arizona's gun crews, battered and broken, fired to the last. Their guns pointed skyward, from whence the enemy appeared. The Jap sneak blow cost hundreds of military and civilian lives. The treacherous attack cost our Pacific Fleet 2 battleships outright, another capsized, the loss of 3 destroyers and a mine layer. While bombs were still bursting and flames still pouring from our shattered naval craft, a light United States cruiser valiantly moves out to join the fleet and avenge Pearl Harbor.
Back home, after their day at the festival, the Yamadas have keen appetites. Dinner includes meat, raw fish, a variety of cooked vegetables, and steamed rice in individual bowls, all eaten with chopsticks. The rice bowls are usually refilled at least once, and perhaps oftener, especially when everyone is hungry. In the kitchen, the maid keeps a careful watch on the rice steamer in case more should be needed. But now she remembers another duty she must attend to. It is time to put more coal on the fire that is already burning in a heating chamber directly beneath the household bath.
Delay invites greater danger. Rapid and united effort by all the peoples of the world who are determined to remain free will ensure a world victory of the forces of justice and of righteousness over the forces of savagery and of barbarism. Italy also has declared war against the United States. I therefore request the Congress to recognize a state of war between the United States and Germany, and between the United States and Italy. Franklin D. Roosevelt, the White House, December 11, 1941.
The hot bath is a daily habit with the Japanese. Tonight, Taro will bathe first, but everyone will have a turn. Far from being afraid of soap, he lathers himself long and vigorously. Next, he dips water from the tub for a thorough rinsing. Washing and rinsing are done outside the tub, which is designed for the final restful soaking. In the living room, Mother and the maid make up beds on the spotless floor, while Father, dressed in a comfortable kimono, quietly reads the evening paper.
That my American forebears have for so many generations played their part in the life of the United States, and that here I am, an Englishman, welcomed in your midst, makes this experience one of the most moving and thrilling in my life, which is already long and has not been entirely uneventful. I wish indeed that my mother, whose memory I cherish across the veil of years, could have been here to see. By the way, I cannot help reflecting that if my father had been American and my mother British, instead of the other way around, I might have got here on my own. Sure I am that this day, now, we are the masters of our fate. That the task which has been set us is not above our strength. That its pangs and toils are not beyond our endurance. As long as we have faith in our cause and an unconquerable willpower, salvation will not be denied us. In the words of the psalmist, he shall not be afraid of evil tidings. His heart is fixed, trusting in the Lord. Not all the tidings will be evil. On the contrary, mighty strokes of war have already been dealt against the enemy. The glorious defense of their native soil by the Russian armies and people. Wounds have been inflicted upon the Nazi tyranny and system, which have bitten deep and will fester and inflame not only in the Nazi body, but in the Nazi mind. The boastful Mussolini has crumpled already. He is now but a lackey and a serf, the merest utensil of his master's will. Many people have been astonished that Japan should in a single day have plunged into war against the United States and the British Empire. What kind of a people do they think we are? Is it possible they do not realize that we shall never cease to persevere against them until they have been taught a lesson which they and the world will never forget? Here we are, together, facing a group of mighty foes who seek our ruin. Here we are, together, defending all that to free men is dear. Twice in a single generation, the catastrophe of world war has fallen upon us. Twice in our lifetime has the long arm of fate reached out across the oceans to bring the United States into the forefront of the battle. If we had kept together after the last war,
If we had taken common measures for our safety, this renewal of the curse need never have fallen upon us. Do we not owe it to ourselves, to our children, to tormented mankind, to make sure that these catastrophes do not engulf us for the third time? It is not given to us to peer into the mysteries of the future. Still I avow my hope and faith, sure and inviolate, that in the days to come, the British and American peoples will, for their own safety and for the good of all, walk together in majesty, in justice, and in peace.
That's all.
It is getting late, and already in another part of the house, the children are asleep. Bo-chan still clutching his toy dog. Taro perhaps reliving the day at the festival. Yukiko resting before tomorrow's return to school. The Yamada home and garden lose their outlines in the darkness of night, while distant Fujiyama looms majestic against the sky.